Hello guys and welcome. Today we are covering the Black Dahlia. Now this is an unsolved case. It is a very popular case. There is a lot of theories. Okay, so let's just get right into it. So the Black Dahlia, also known as Elizabeth Short, was a woman who was born July 29th, 1924. She was born in Hyde Park, Massachusetts. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that properly. To Cleo and Phoebe Short. Little fun fact, Cleo, her dad actually built miniature golf courses. Apparently they were very popular around that time and they were everybody was getting into them. So fast forward in 1929, Cleo, her father, he had depression and it had just gotten a lot worse for him. So he decided to leave Beth and her 4 siblings. And he actually faked his suicide, which these days would be very, very difficult, if not impossible to do. But back then, it was a lot different and apparently a lot easier to fake suicide. Fast forward again, later on down the track, Cleo actually sent a letter to Beth and, you know, could you imagine getting a letter from someone that you thought committed suicide? Especially your father, it would be pretty, yeah. So they wrote letters back and forth. He told her that he was living in California. And yeah, they just continued to write letters back and forth, I guess, getting to know each other again and like what he'd been doing all this time. And I guess, I don't know, I'd be asking why he did it. And as she got older, eventually he asked her to come and live with him in California. So Beth, I don't know if I mentioned this, but she always wanted to be an actress. So she wanted to move to Hollywood, make it big, and be like a famous actress, which wasn't unusual for this time. Everyone was kind of like moving to Hollywood, hoping to make it big and everything like that. So she thought it would be a perfect opportunity to be able to do this, and so she went. But then Cleo eventually kicked Beth out, saying that she was lazy, she was a freeloader, and that she just didn't want to do anything. Beth then went to live with other people that she knew around the California area, and they'd all said the same thing, that she was lazy and just freeloading off them and wouldn't do anything. One of the men Beth actually stayed with, his name was Robert Red Manley. He claims that they never slept together. They saw each other quite often though. And Robert would actually be the last person to see Beth. On January the 8th, 1947, Beth got a ride to a hotel in California and Robert actually drove her. And they went and had dinner, and I think they went up to, I don't know if they went up to the room that she had booked or if they just went up to a room. But Robert claimed that he slept on the bed and Beth slept in a chair because she wasn't feeling well. Robert actually was married also, so keep that in mind. The next morning came around and he left, and he actually said that he just saw Beth in the lobby making some phone calls, and that was it. That was the last time that he saw her. I feel like if they lived together and she stayed with him, they would have been fairly close, even if they were just like best friends or something like that. But why would you just leave and not say anything? So I don't know. What I've heard is that he didn't say anything other than she was just making phone calls, but maybe they'd already said their goodbyes upstairs and then he was just like leaving. I don't know. So January 15th, 1947, a lady named Betty Birdsinger, I don't know if I'm saying that properly, she was taking a walk with her daughter to the auto repairer. As they reached the corner of Norton and 39, Betty saw what she thought was just a mannequin in the grass with just some trash. But unfortunately, as she got closer, she realized that it was a body and not a mannequin. You could only imagine, like, you're just going on your morning walk and you come across this and your daughter's there too. So okay, so now the body was very messed up. So if hearing certain things make you queasy, I'm not showing photos of what the condition of her body was. I don't think it's necessary. It is pretty gruesome, and you know, it's still a human, and it is kind of disturbing, even though the images are black and white. Yeah, but if you would like to see her autopsy photos, what her body looked like, I will leave a link down below where you can go and have a look for yourself. Okay, so getting into it, her mouth was cut from pretty much ear to ear, kind of like a Joker smiling face. Her body was severed in half perfectly, missing all her organs that they would later find out. Everything was just perfectly neatly cut. She'd have like some cuts and different scratches and things like that. And the weirdest thing was that another reason why Betty probably thought that it was a mannequin is because she was almost ghost white, because there was no blood in her body. Her body was completely drained of blood. Betty took her daughter and they ran over to a nearby house where they called 911. So 911 came and covered her body. Later on, they did determine that it was Elizabeth Short by taking fingerprints, because obviously she looked a lot different and wasn't really recognizable at first. So they did test her body for sperm and they found nothing, so they don't believe that she was raped. Until today, the case is still unsolved because they found nothing. There was really no DNA or anything like that, and there was no blood. This is where they kind of pieced together that she obviously was killed somewhere else and then brought here, and possibly she was cut in half to be transported, but then again, she was cut perfectly, so it's sick, really. But yeah, like I said, there was no blood. There was no blood on her. There was no blood on the ground where she was found. Nothing. They actually had to contact Beth's mother, Phoebe, to fly in and identify her body, as her father, Cleo, would not. He just refused to identify her body. But the way that her mother actually found out that she had died is pretty bad. So a reporter called her asking for more information about her because she'd entered a beauty contest, which I guess to Phoebe made perfect sense because she wanted to be an actress, and I guess it was just kind of following the steps. And then after she told them what they wanted to hear, I don't know whether it was like, you know, certain parts of her facial features or what it was, the reporters actually told her that she was dead, that she had been found dead. 9 days after her body was found, the police department actually received a letter that had newspaper clippings, and I think they were movie title clippings and things like that, all stuck together on a piece of paper. And that read out to say, "Here is Dahlia's belongings, letter to follow." The belongings that came along with the letter were things like her birth certificate, her social security number, even personal photos from Dahlia, and an address book that apparently had a few pages missing. Now, the letter itself and the belongings were all doused in gasoline. So this is actually pretty smart, as it's a way that, you know, you can't trace anything back to it. And same with the letter being pieced together with magazine and newspaper and movie article clippings, because then they can't trace back the handwriting. So no one turned themselves in, obviously, but there was some suspects. Number one is Robert Red Manley. Because he was the last person to see her, he was automatically suspect number one. But he was ruled out pretty much straight away because he was already back in San Diego around the time that her body was found. But even though he wasn't a suspect anymore, his life kind of just spiraled downhill. His wife actually had to put him in a mental hospital because he went crazy. He claimed that he was hearing voices and things like that, and because people believed that he did it. Suspect number two was Joseph Dumaze. He claimed to be drunk with Beth a few nights before her death, and he actually confessed to killing her, but he was ruled out again because they found out that it wasn't him, and things that he was saying was just not making sense and not piecing together and everything. Like, this actually happens a lot more than you think. It even still happens now. Now the third suspect is George Hodel. So on the morning of January 15th, a resident of the area where her body was found saw a black Ford sedan pull up and park where her body was. It was later found out that George Hodel actually owned a car of that exact description between 1947 and 1950. His son, Steve, was on a mission to prove that his father did this, and said that apparently when they were younger, there was a room in their house that they were never allowed in. It was completely off limits, and he never found out what was in there. So George went to medical school, and Steve believed that he knew how to obviously drain a body of blood, cut it precisely, and things like that. It later came out that what was believed to be photos of Beth, George had in his possession. Now, they tested these photos and back then, and they came to the conclusion that it was 85% possibly her. Then in 2014, they reviewed it again and kind of got, obviously there's a lot more technology now, so they pieced it together a bit more, and they came to the conclusion that it was 95% positive that it was her. Some more interesting information. Steve actually went back to his childhood home where this room was, and they took cadaver dogs. Dogs actually picked up scents of dead people, dead bodies that were actually there at some point, and they found it in quite a few spots throughout the place. So this guy could have been a serial killer. Okay, so that's really it. There's probably a bit more that I've missed. Obviously, it is a very, very big case. There's a lot I probably missed. There's a lot of theories to this case. I don't know, who do you think did it? I kind of think that it's a very big possibility that George did it, but there's a lot of other things as well that kind of tie in. You find more videos on it and read up on the case, and there's a lot of books and movies and things like that about it. A lot of people believe that there was actually people on the inside, so like within the police department and that sort of thing, that were either working with someone or in on it, because randomly evidence would go missing and things like that, and things weren't brought out all the time. There's another theory that she was a prostitute and that she was pregnant and all of things like this, but I won't go into that because I don't think it's true. Even in the coroner's report, it was proved that she was not pregnant, and there was no signs that she had been pregnant or anything like that. And everything was intact. Her uterus was intact, like her ovaries, her tubes, everything was intact. The last sort of theory is that it was a crime of passion. So they think that possibly a woman did it. You know, maybe because of her going on all these like dinner dates or dates for dinner with different men. Possibly a woman could have done it because of the way it was like staged and how much effort went into it, sort of thing. It wasn't just like a, you know, murder done, someone finds it. It was very like planned out, and for someone to drain her blood, cut her properly, put like a permanent smile on her face, like it's kind of not something that you'd think just a random person would do. Like, there's some sick people, but some people think that it was a passion and that the person that killed her knew what they were doing, knew who she was, or wanted revenge, I guess. I don't know, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I personally kind of believe it was George, but I guess we will never know. But never say never. Things can come out sometimes, but I don't know about this one. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next Wednesday, and don't forget to hit subscribe.